Hello and welcome, Les Arnott here, and we're going to be looking at drowning the dandelion. Drowning the dandelion shot. So I'll put it up on screen so you can see an example of what we're going to create. Now the odd part with the dandelion is we've got a tank of water here, so we've got a fish tank and we're using various lighting for that, which I'll go over in a moment. But first of all, drowning a dandelion, is it easy? So basically we want to drop it in a tank and we want a nice splash around the dandelion. No, it's not easy. In fact, it's impossible, because if you try to drown the dandelion, if I just drop it into the water here, you will see it hits the water and it floats. So basically dandelions do not drown. So how do we do it? How do we create a shot where we want this to go under the water? We want to create all these bubbles and capture it in an image. To do that, and these are looking a little bit bedraggled now because I was actually shooting these yesterday, but what we've got is a clear acrylic rod, and what I've used is a glue gun, and basically we glue the dandelions onto the end of the stick. And once we've done that, we can then dunk them into the water, create a splash and take the photographs. So that's how we overcome that part. Next part is the lighting, because we obviously want to capture, as he drops the heat gun, we want to capture this going into the water and capture those bubbles coming up, so it needs to be a really fast shot to be able to do that. Now, to overcome that, we're using flash, and in this case 2 flashes. The best way of shooting water, anything inside water, if it's clear, and this isn't clear obviously, we've got a solid object here with the dandelion, but in clear water I always light from the back. So what I've got behind this diffusion material here is actually the inside of one of those reflectors that you can buy. So on the inside you'll have a translucent, almost screen as we call it in the trade. So behind that I've got a light. So a studio light behind it, it can be a flash, it can be anything, a source of light. It needs to be a flash obviously, or a studio light, because we need high speed. And also I've got a flash to light the subject from the front. So when the object's in the water, what I'm going to create is a totally white background, and that's going to be important for the editing part, because there is a small bit of editing with this, but it is very, very minimal. And you could even do it in Paint, in Microsoft Paint or something like that. It hasn't got to be, you know, any expensive software to be able to do that. And so I'll go through the process of doing that also after. So we need to light this up. So to stop the action, what you need is nothing to do with shutter speed. When we work with flash, the actual shutter speed that we will be using will be 1/125th of a second, so very slow. And as long as we have got enough darkness in the room, so it doesn't look dark in here, but it's dark enough. Basically on my settings that I'm going to use, so I'm going to be shooting at ISO 100, I'm going to be shooting, I need to get the depth of field here, so probably about f16 to get that depth of field. I'm using a macro lens, a 100mm macro lens. It really doesn't matter what lens you've got. You need to be far enough back so that you're not going to get your lens splashed obviously. I'm using it on a crop sensor, my old 7D Mark II actually, Canon 7D Mark II. So camera doesn't matter, you can use any camera. The lens, yeah, you don't want a wide angle lens basically. You need something that you can crop after and get the shot. So you need to be zooming in fairly close to it. But most lenses from 50mm onwards should be fine. So that's the important thing, the settings on the camera. So 1/125th of a second, we're using f16 and 100th 100 ISO. The light from the back needs to be pure white. So what we do is we place this in here, we focus the camera on this object in the water while it's still, and then we put the lens into manual setting, and that means it's on a tripod. The lens isn't going to move, The camera isn't going to move, and this is roughly going to be in more or less the same place towards the middle of the tank when I drop it in and dunk it up and down. So we've combated that, we've got the focus. The light coming from the back will give us a pure white background. The light will hit this and it will spread the light and it will come through the water, which is really nice for clear objects especially. And I know we haven't got a clear object, and because we haven't got a clear object, we need this light at the front. Now you'll notice the light behind this is not too far away, it's about a foot away from the screen, and this one is just a couple of feet away, and that's really important as well, because this is what works as our shutter speed, not the shutter speed on your camera. It's the duration of the flash that captures the image. And if we boost that flash up fairly high and have it further back, and it's a bigger flash, if you want to put it like that, a longer duration, what that will mean is it won't give you a sharp image of this going in the water. So we need the lowest power we can get on the flashes. So I'll just set the flashes to the lowest power and then I'll move them backwards and forwards to get the exposure correct. That's the important thing. We've got the settings on the camera, that's what we work with, that's what we want, and then we just move the lights into the correct position backwards and forwards until the exposure is correct. We want a pure white background, so that's important, but we don't want to be overexposed, that we're overexposing the edges of the object in the water. The light at the front needs to be just enough to light up the yellow on these dandelions. So fairly basic, you know, and you haven't got to have studio lights, you can use flash. Flash will work as long as it's off camera. So you need a transmitter, obviously, whether you're using studio lights or whatever. When you take the shot, the flashes go off. And I can actually reach the camera. I can do this myself because I can reach the camera. You can't see the camera, I don't think, it's just out of shot. But I can put my arm on the shutter button and I can press it and actually dunk this up and down. And while I'm doing that, I can press the button and take the shot. So really simple. What I'm going to show you now is, once you've taken that shot, is how to edit it, because that's important. And remember, we've got a clear white background. Yeah, that really helps, because all it means is we'll see a little bit of the rod in the water, we'll get the flowers in there and all the bubbles, and all we need is just a simple white brush and just paint out the little bits of the rod that we don't want. So it's very, very basic, easy to do for anybody. But I'll give you a video now on how to do that. Okay, so what we've got here is a vine of tomatoes, and these are great, and you can see I've attached them to a piece of very fine fishing string, and this just makes it much more simpler to get the shot. So all I basically do is just drop it up and down in the water. I can reach the camera from here, so I'll simply reach over. Hopefully you can see the shot. I'll try and position my arm so you can. I'm going to dunk it in, take the shot, dunk it in, take the shot. Make sure that I clear any water off the front. It's also a good idea just to clean the inside of the tank, the top there. So we're going to try and capture that going in, and also at the back. So we just get the majority of the water off there. Make sure you don't use tissue that sort of disintegrates when it touches the water, because you'll be in trouble. Let's make sure it's nice and clean. There we go. So we position again, we're good to go. Make sure that the tail of that nylon is out of the way, so I'm just going to wrap that fishing line around my hand. Not that you'd see it, I don't think it's that fine. So fine fishing wire is, line rather, is the thing to use. And off we go. I'll miss that time. Now doing it this way, you've got a lot more control than just dropping something freehand into the tank and just basically can go all over the place. So anything you can attach to a line or a rod, like we did with the flowers, you'll get a much more dramatic, which you can sort of, you know, swirl it around, lift it up, and you just keep shooting. So let's just keep going, see what we can get. That's all there is to it. Go and play.